Have you ever felt the ground shift beneath you? Not in earth or stone, but in spirit? When the certainties you leaned on begin to tremble. When the heart feels small against the weight of what surrounds you. When all you can do is breathe and whisper, "Lord, hold me still." Tonight, we rest in Psalm 46, a psalm of safety, a song of courage whispered in the middle of the storm. It is not a hymn for calm days, but for the trembling ones, the days when faith must become refuge, and trust must become the very ground beneath our feet. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. The psalm begins with assurance, not of a life without danger, but of a God who never leaves. He does not wait for the storm to end before drawing near. He stands within it, unshaken, unafraid. Before we begin this gentle journey through Psalm 46, take a deep breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let your thoughts slow. Feel the weight you've been carrying all day, and allow it to rest here, for a while. If these nightly stories bring you peace, take a quiet moment to like this video, subscribe for more calming reflections, and share where you're listening from tonight. Your presence here keeps this space warm, and helps our circle of peace grow with every heart that joins. Now, take another breath. Let it be slower this time. Feel it leave your chest gently, like a sigh finally allowed to escape. Imagine yourself standing near still water at dusk. The world has grown quiet. The sky glows faintly, a thin gold line resting on the edge of the horizon. You can hear the faint echo of your heartbeat in your ears. It's steady, quiet, alive. Then, as you stand there, you remember the first words again. God is our refuge and strength. Refuge, the place you run when the world breaks open. Not a wall built by hands, but a presence. A nearness that does not shatter when the earth shakes. Strength, not the kind you summon, but the kind that finds you when yours is gone. The psalmist does not speak as one who imagines trouble, but as one who has lived through it, who has seen mountains crumble, kingdoms fall, and still found peace in the quiet heart of God. He has learned that safety is not found in stone or sword, but in surrender. In trusting that God remains when everything else moves. He whispers these words to the fearful, the weary, the doubting, "Therefore, we will not fear." Not because danger disappears, but because presence remains. The night deepens around you now. The air cools. And somewhere beyond what can be seen, the same refuge stands. The same eternal shelter that has held generations before you. The voice of the psalm is not loud. It does not shout over fear. It speaks beneath it, a whisper strong enough to steady the soul. God is not only a refuge when you run to Him. He is a refuge even before you move. His presence surrounds you already. Closer than breath. Stronger than what frightens you. Let that truth settle in your heart tonight. You do not need to be unshaken to find safety. You only need to rest in the one who cannot be moved. Now, close your eyes for a moment, and let the words echo within you like a soft pulse of peace. God is our refuge, and our strength, a very present help in trouble. Even now, especially now, he is near. The night grows deeper, and in that stillness, the psalm opens wider, inviting us into its courage. Therefore, we will not fear. The words rise like a quiet defiance against chaos. They do not come from a place untouched by trembling, but from the heart of one who has seen the ground split beneath his feet, and still chosen to trust. Imagine it now. The sky darkens with storm clouds. The wind turns wild, the earth begins to shake. The mountains, those ancient, immovable giants, groan and crumble into the sea. Waves rise in fury. The world itself seems to unravel. And yet, amid the sound of roaring waters and breaking stone, a single stillness stands. A presence, unmoved, unbroken, unafraid. The psalmist does not deny the shaking, he names it. He does not pretend calm exists apart from chaos, he reveals that calm can exist within it. Therefore we will not fear, he says again, his voice steady as the earth quakes. It's easy to speak of peace when all is quiet. But faith, true faith, is the song sung when the world is collapsing in on itself. It is the whisper that rises when all other sounds fall silent. And maybe tonight, you know that kind of trembling. Maybe your mountain isn't made of rock, but of something far closer, a plan that's crumbled, a loss too heavy to lift, a moment when control slipped through your hands like sand. Even then, especially then, the psalm says, do not fear. Not because you are strong, but because you are held. You are not standing alone in the shaking. You are standing beside the one who spoke the mountains into being, and even now, speaks peace into your heart. Close your eyes and listen for a moment. Beneath the noise of the world, there is another rhythm, a quieter sound that never stops. It is the pulse of God's constancy. Steady, gentle, always near. Even if everything you once trusted begins to fall apart, you remain within His keeping. The God who shaped the land beneath your feet is the same God who will catch you when it gives way. He does not promise that storms will never come. He promises that you will never face them alone. Imagine standing at the edge of that roaring sea, mountains collapsing into waves, the sky echoing with thunder, and yet, within you, there is no panic. Only peace. Because even as the world shakes, your soul is held by hands that do not tremble. God is our refuge and strength. Say it again in your heart, slowly, between breaths. Each word is a heartbeat of truth. Each pause a resting place for fear to dissolve. God is our refuge, our strength, our help, always present. The earth may tremble, but the one who formed it does not. And so tonight, if your world feels uncertain, if your heart quakes beneath the weight of worry, let the stillness of this psalm hold you. Let its ancient calm become your own. You are not built to stand alone. You are built to stand within Him. And there, even as mountains fall, you will not. the storm begins to quiet. Not because it has ended, but because something greater than the storm has entered the scene. The psalmist lifts his eyes from the trembling mountains and turns toward the fortress that does not shake. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. The words rest heavy, steady, like a stone foundation beneath unsteady feet. Imagine a city in the night, walls strong and high, torches burning along the ramparts, the sound of distant waves crashing against its base. Outside, the chaos rages, but inside, there is calm. Children sleep, lamps flicker softly in the windows, the air hums with the quiet trust that dawn will come. Why? Because they know the strength that guards them is not their own. There is a presence at the center of their walls, a divine heartbeat that holds everything together. The psalmist sees this vision clearly. He does not imagine a God far away, watching from above, untouched by fear. He sees a God within the city, in its streets, in its gates, in the very dust of its foundations. And that changes everything. When God dwells within something, it cannot fall. Even when the ground trembles, it remains. Even when darkness surrounds, light rises from within. The psalmist calls that place Zion, the city of God. But tonight, that city lives inside you. Your heart, though fragile, has become his dwelling place. And because he is within you, you, too, shall not be moved. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the steady rhythm of your breath, the slow rise and fall of your chest. With every inhale, imagine peace entering, not from the world around you, but from within, where he already abides. With every exhale, let go of the weight that fear presses upon you. You are not empty space. You are a temple of stillness, a sanctuary where God himself rests. He is not far. He is here. And when the night grows darkest, he whispers the promise, God will help her when morning dawns. The phrase glows like firelight in the dark. It means, no night lasts forever. Even the longest storms yield to sunrise. Even the deepest sorrow gives way to renewal. Help is already on the horizon, even if the horizon cannot yet be seen. The psalmist knew this truth from experience. He had seen God move mountains, not with thunder, but with mercy. He had watched deliverance come quietly, not in the chaos of war, but in the hush before dawn. And so he waits, calmly, confidently, for the light that always returns. Maybe tonight, your heart is that city, walls weary, lamps burning low. Maybe you felt the shaking within, and wondered if your strength will hold. It will not, but his will. Because the peace that keeps you is not your own making. It is his indwelling presence, a calm at the center of chaos, a fortress unseen but unbreakable. And when the first light of morning touches your spirit again, you will remember this moment, when the storm did not end, but your fear did. The night is not forever. The trembling is not the truth. God is in your midst. And because of that, you shall not be moved. The storm has quieted now. its roar fading into memory, its waves softening into ripples that reflect the moonlight. The psalmist lifts his gaze from trembling earth to something flowing, calm, alive. "There is a river," he whispers. And at once, the whole tone of the psalm changes. The sound of crashing waters becomes gentle again. The violent sea turns to a stream that glides through the heart of the city, not wild, but healing. It winds through the streets of Zion, cool and clear, its movement soft as breath. The people draw near to drink. They wash their faces in it. They fill their jars. They laugh again. And in that laughter, peace returns. This river is not made of water. It is made of presence. It is the peace of God, flowing quietly where fear once dwelled. It is the living calm that moves through a weary soul, bringing joy where anxiety once ruled. The psalmist says, "Its streams make glad the city of God." Glad, not in loud rejoicing, but in deep contentment. The kind of joy that has nothing to prove, and nothing left to fear. Have you ever felt that river? Not in sound or sight, but in a moment when your heart suddenly exhaled, when, for no reason you could explain, peace arrived. That is the river. That is the stream of His Spirit flowing through the chambers of your soul. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine it. The river moves through you now. Soft, luminous, endless. It begins at the throne of God and flows through the heart that believes. It carries away debris, worry, tension, regret, and replaces them with stillness. Every breath you take is another ripple of that river. Inhale. The waters enter with peace. Exhale. The fear drifts away, forgotten. Again. Inhale. Exhale. A rhythm older than the world. The psalmist smiles faintly, watching the water shimmer in the dawn light. He knows, this is the secret of divine joy. Not laughter that depends on ease, but gladness that lives within the current of trust. For when God is near, peace is not something to find, it is something to remember. He whispers again, "There is a river," and as he speaks, the world seems to listen. The trees lean closer. The air softens. Even the remnants of the storm seem to bow. This river cannot be dammed by despair. It cannot be blocked by fear. It moves beneath every sorrow, through every heart that calls His name. It does not rush, it flows gently, faithfully, forever. The city of God, your heart, your spirit, your secret place, is made glad by this flow. Even in the darkest night, there is a stream that does not stop running. Even when you do not feel it, it continues. Even when all around seems dry, the source is still full, still pouring. God is not only your refuge above, He is the river within. And tonight, that river runs through your silence, through your weariness, through your breathing, cleansing, cooling, renewing everything it touches. Let it wash through you now. Let it move where words cannot. Let it remind you that joy is not absent, it is hidden, waiting to rise like water in spring. The psalmist looks toward the temple and smiles as he whispers into the light, "God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved." The city stands because the river never stops. And so does the soul that drinks from it. The psalmist sits near the river now, its gentle song echoing through the night. The water catches the moonlight like liquid glass, a mirror of heaven itself, still yet alive. He gazes toward the heart of the city, where lamps flicker in windows and the first glow of dawn waits quietly beyond the hills. And in that waiting, he feels it, the calm pulse of divine nearness. God is in the midst of her. He whispers it slowly, letting each word fall like a drop of water into stillness. Not above her, not beyond her, but in her. This is the mystery the psalm reveals, that God is not only the refuge we run to. He is the peace that lives inside the walls we call our heart. He is the quiet at the center of the storm, the calm within the trembling, the light inside the shadow. The psalmist knows the city will still face threat. Armies may gather, walls may shake, night may fall heavy, but the foundation remains untouched. Because the one who holds the world is seated within it. He looks at the river again, flowing past the temple's steps, its sound unbroken, constant. This is how God moves, softly, faithfully, never hurried, never uncertain. When dawn comes, he will help her. Not too soon, not too late. At the perfect hour when darkness begins to lift. And so the psalmist waits. Not in panic, but in peace. Because he knows, God's timing is not absence. It is preparation. It is mercy in motion. Perhaps tonight you find yourself in that same waiting. You have prayed. You have hoped. And yet the morning has not come. The world around you feels dim, and your heart wonders if the light will ever rise again. But listen closely. The same words spoken then still breathe through this night. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. He has not forgotten you. He is not waiting far away, deciding when to draw near. He is already here, within you. In your breath, in your heartbeat, in the quiet spaces where no one else sees. He is not the morning, he is the promise of it. And that promise never fails. Close your eyes. Let the rhythm of your breathing slow again. Inhale deeply. And imagine that with every breath, you are drawing from that same still river flowing through your spirit. Exhale. And feel what no longer serves you begin to fade. The fear, the worry, the need to know, let them go. They have no power here. God dwells in the center of your being. You are his temple. And no storm can move what he inhabits. You may feel weak tonight, but the foundation beneath your weakness is unbreakable. You may feel weary, but the presence within you does not tire. You may feel surrounded, but you are surrounded by peace far stronger than fear. The psalmist looks up. The first light of dawn has begun to touch the horizon. It spills softly across the water, turning it from silver to gold. The city begins to stir. And though the world beyond the walls may still tremble, the heart of it, the place where God dwells, remains calm. He smiles faintly. a whisper leaving his lips, barely audible, yet filled with peace that cannot be shaken. God will help her. When morning dawns. Oi. The first light of dawn spreads slowly across the land, soft gold brushing the edges of rooftops, the river shimmering like a mirror of heaven. But beyond the calm city walls, the psalmist hears the echoes of the world, the sounds of unrest, of nations trembling beneath their own weight. He listens, and the peace within him does not vanish, it deepens. Because he knows, even when the world shouts, God still whispers louder. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter, he murmurs softly, watching the horizon glow. He has seen it before, the rise and fall of powers, the endless clamor of kings chasing crowns, the proud claiming permanence and finding dust instead. Every age thinks itself unshakable, until the shaking comes. The psalmist sighs. The world's noise is not new. It has always raged, in armies, in politics, in hearts. It has always sought control, forgetting that peace was never won by force, but by presence. And so, amid the noise, he remembers, there is a voice stronger than every nation's cry. A single word from the Eternal One, and the chaos bends. He utters, and the earth melts, not destroyed, but calmed. The storm dissolves beneath the sound of its creator. Imagine it now, a battlefield trembling with noise, swords drawn, banners lifted, shouts colliding in the air. And then, silence. No thunder, no flame, no command shouted through heaven. Just a single, divine exhale, and everything stops. The wind dies. The heart's quiet. The noise that thought itself mighty realizes it was only echo. That is the power of his peace. The psalmist lifts his head toward the light, his voice soft but sure, the Lord of hosts is with us. That phrase, it rolls through him like thunder turned gentle. The host, the heavenly multitude that moves by his command, the unseen army that never wars with flesh but with fear. They surround the people of God like breath surrounds the body. Invisible, but unbreakable. He remembers how his ancestors felt this truth, how they stood before the Red Sea, the sound of Egypt behind them, and yet, before a single weapon was raised, God's wind split the waters. It was never man's might that saved them, it was his presence. Close your eyes now, and listen to your own world's noise. Perhaps it isn't nations and kingdoms, but deadlines, worries, expectations, voices that compete for your peace. Let them rage for a moment. And then, in the quiet between your breaths, hear the greater sound, the voice that calms the earth. He utters peace, and the noise within you melts away. Each heartbeat slows. Each thought loosens its grip. Each fear finds its end in his stillness. This is what it means to dwell within refuge, not that the world falls silent, but that its roar no longer rules you. The psalmist smiles faintly, his eyes reflecting the golden edge of sunrise. He feels the city waking, the distant sound of laughter, the shuffle of footsteps on stone. Life continues. Nations may rage, kingdoms may rise and fall, but within these walls of divine peace, the soul remains untouched. He looks once more toward the horizon, where the light grows brighter by the moment. Then he whispers, almost in awe, he utters his voice, and the earth melts. A melting not of destruction, but of surrender. A soft undoing of pride and fear, until only faith remains. And in that melting, the psalmist feels his own heart quiet again. No crown, no war, no storm can command him now. Only one voice remains, steady, calm, eternal. He closes his eyes, the morning wind moving through his hair, and whispers again to himself, "The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge." Oi! The light now spreads fully across the land. The river glimmers like liquid gold, and the morning air hums with life. The psalmist stands at the edge of the water, hands resting upon the cool stone, watching as the first rays of sun climb over the horizon. The storm has passed. The nation's shouting has faded. But one sound remains, not a sound of noise, but of presence. He closes his eyes and remembers the words. He utters his voice. And the earth melts. What power these few syllables hold, the reminder that creation itself listens for his breath. When he speaks, mountains bow. When he whispers, oceans still. When he commands, chaos remembers its boundaries. But this melting is not destruction. It is transformation. The melting of hardness. The yielding of pride. The softening of the soul before its maker. The psalmist kneels, his reflection trembling in the water. He thinks of all the ways the world resists God's voice, how men build walls of noise around themselves, walls of argument, walls of control, walls made of their own unspoken fears. And yet, one word from heaven undoes them gently. Not in wrath, but in love. Not in thunder, but in warmth. He feels it now, that same voice, not thundering from the sky, but whispering within. No longer saying, "Be afraid," but, "Be still." He breathes the words softly, each syllable an act of surrender. Be still. And the voice inside replies, "I am here." The psalmist feels the ground steady beneath him again, as though the same God who spoke galaxies into form is now speaking peace into his bones. The trembling ceases. The fear unravels. And the warmth of trust fills the spaces where worry once lived. He opens his eyes. The city before him begins to glow in morning light. Its walls glisten, its roofs shine, and from the temple rises the faint sound of early prayer. A song, soft and sure, joining the hum of the river. He realizes, even the earth itself worships when God speaks. Every leaf that trembles in the breeze. Every bird whose wings cut the air. Every ripple on the water's surface, all of them respond to that divine utterance, whether in silence or in sound. The psalmist whispers, "You speak, Lord," and the world becomes right again. He looks back to the horizon. It's glowing now, a soft, endless light that makes even the shadows gentle. The sun has not shouted its way into the sky. It has risen quietly, faithfully, beautifully. Just like God's rule over the earth, strong, but never harsh. Certain, but never hurried. Maybe that's what the melting truly means, not the end of things, but the end of resistance. when the heart finally surrenders its struggle and yields to the warmth of mercy. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that warmth filling you now. Like sunlight melting frost from a windowpane, His peace begins to thaw the frozen places inside, the fears you kept hidden, the griefs that stayed unspoken, the heaviness you carried for too long. With each breath, they soften. They release. They flow back into His keeping. This is what happens when God speaks, not condemnation, but healing. Not collapse, but restoration. Not the end, but a beginning. The psalmist rises to his feet. His heart feels lighter now, his spirit renewed. He looks upon the world with quiet awe, knowing that even if it trembles again, the one who speaks peace remains. He whispers once more, "Utter your voice again, O Lord. Melt my heart, until only trust remains." The wind stirs softly through the olive branches, as if answering the prayer. And the psalmist smiles, for he knows, the same voice that melts the earth now melts his soul into rest. The psalmist stands still for a long time. The river whispering beside him, the morning light spilling gold across the city walls. The storm is gone now, but the stillness it leaves behind feels sacred, like the earth itself is holding its breath in awe. And in that silence, one truth begins to rise in him again, the refrain that anchors every trembling heart. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. He speaks it softly at first, then again. And with each repetition, the words feel heavier, not in burden, but in power. They are the weight of reassurance, the gravity of belonging. The Lord of hosts, the God who commands the armies of heaven, who paints galaxies with His fingertips, and measures oceans in the hollow of His hand. Hosts, not one, not few, but countless. An unseeable multitude of light, each one moving at His word, each one devoted to His will. And yet, this God, the Lord of infinite strength, is with us. Not merely near us, not watching from above, but with us, present, personal, protective. The psalmist lets that truth sink deep into his soul, and something inside him loosens, the last thread of fear, the last hint of uncertainty. Because if the Lord of hosts is here, what could ever stand against peace? He smiles faintly, remembering. How many times had his heart forgotten this truth? How often had he stood at the edge of danger and looked only at the threat, not the presence standing beside him? He recalls the nights on the battlefield, the clash of swords, the cries of men, the ache of exhaustion. And yet, again and again, a strength beyond his own had carried him through, a presence that could not be seen, but could always be felt. He whispers now, "The Lord of hosts is with us." The words are no longer a statement, they are a shield. Each syllable builds a wall of faith around his spirit. The psalmist glances toward the city gates, watchmen moving quietly, the hum of morning trade beginning, life unfolding under the same sky of mercy. And he realizes, every ordinary breath, every moment of calm, is proof of divine nearness. The God of Jacob, the one who wrestled with men and still called them chosen, the one who blessed brokenness and made it sacred, that same God is his refuge. Not a perfect God for perfect people, but a merciful God for the flawed and fearful. A God who sees weakness and calls it worthy of love. Close your eyes for a moment and breathe this truth in. You are not alone. The same presence that held David in his storms holds you in yours. The same strength that steadied kingdoms now steadies your heart. The same Lord who commanded hosts of angels walks quietly beside you, unseen, but never absent. Even when life feels unguarded, you are surrounded. Even when you feel small, you are shielded. Even when you are silent, He is singing peace over you. The Lord of hosts is with you. The psalmist closes his eyes and tilts his face to the sun. He feels its warmth on his skin, gentle but strong, a reminder of divine consistency. The same light that woke the world this morning is the same light that has risen since the beginning of time. And so too, the same God who guarded the fathers now guards the children. He opens his hands toward the light and whispers again, his voice slow, full of quiet awe. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. He lets the words drift upward like smoke from a temple offering, and feels the peace of heaven descend again like dew. Every heart that remembers this truth becomes a fortress. Every soul that repeats it becomes a sanctuary. Every whisper of He is with us is a spark of eternity glowing against the world's cold. The psalmist breathes deeply, the peace within him now steady as the morning light. He smiles, knowing that before another word is spoken, his soul is safe. For even if the earth trembles, and the nations roar, and the mountains fall into the sea, one truth remains unbroken: the Lord of hosts is with us. The morning light has fully blossomed now. The city glows beneath the sun, rooftops warm, river gleaming like a ribbon of gold. The psalmist stands upon the high wall, his cloak stirring gently in the wind, and looks out across the land. He breathes slowly, his eyes tracing the distance where mountains rise and plains stretch wide. He has seen this land tremble before, he has seen storms break it, and wars scorch it, and yet, here it stands again, renewed, alive, peaceful, held by unseen hands. The psalmist's voice breaks the quiet, soft but certain. Come, behold the works of the Lord. He speaks not to a crowd, but to every heart that has forgotten what God has done. He calls the fearful, the tired, the unbelieving, to look again. Look at the ruins where pride once stood. Look at the seas calmed by His word. Look at the wounds turned into stories of mercy. Look at how every ending became a beginning in His time. Come, behold, He whispers again, for faith begins in remembrance. To behold the works of the Lord is to see that even in desolation, there is design. Even in loss, there is love. Even in ruin, there is rebuilding. He leans on the wall and closes his eyes. He remembers the moments that once seemed final, battles lost, dreams fallen silent, prayers that felt unanswered. Yet, somehow, through the ashes, life found its way back. Not as it was before, but as something deeper, truer, and more tender. That, too, is the work of the Lord. Not always seen in miracles that shake the earth, but in mercies that mend it quietly. The psalmist opens his eyes again and looks toward the far horizon, the faint outlines of old battlefields now covered in grass. The land remembers peace better than it remembers war. Time, under God's care, turns even scars into sacred ground. He speaks softly into the wind, "You bring desolations upon the earth, not to destroy, but to humble, not to wound, but to heal." It is a hard truth, but the psalmist has lived long enough to know it. God allows the breaking so that pride may fall, and in the quiet that follows, he builds something that cannot be shaken. The ruins become reminders. The wounds become wisdom. The silence becomes sanctuary. He lifts his gaze to the sky, watching clouds drift slow and bright. Even they obey his rhythm. They move, they fade, they return again. Nothing is wasted in his cycle of renewal. Close your eyes now, and think of the moments in your life that once felt like desolation, the seasons of ending, of empty space, of prayers that fell into silence. Let them come, but do not fear them. Look again, and behold the quiet work hidden within them. Can you see it now? The patience that grew where hope had fallen? The wisdom shaped by waiting? The compassion born from pain? These are the quiet works of the Lord. Not loud, not hurried, but eternal. He is the God who rebuilds from ruin, who speaks through ashes, who brings forth rivers in deserts and light from shadows. The psalmist whispers again, his voice filled with awe, "Come, behold the works of the Lord." And as he speaks, he feels the peace of recognition settle over him, the calm that comes when you finally see the pattern woven through your pain. He realizes that even desolation, in God's hands, is mercy reshaped. The wind quiets again. The city hums softly with life, children's laughter, footsteps on stone, the creak of doors opening to morning. The psalmist closes his eyes and smiles. He understands now. The same hands that allowed the shaking are the hands that steadied him through it. The same God who brought storms is the God who made the air clear again. To behold his works is not only to see his power, but his patience, his artistry, his love, even in the ruins. He whispers to the wind once more, "Your works are not always gentle, but they are always good." And as the river flows quietly beneath him, and the morning grows bright and calm, he feels his soul bow, not in fear, but in awe. Come, behold the works of the Lord. They are written everywhere, even within you. The psalmist remains upon the wall. The morning bright and clear now, the horizon wide and endless. In the distance, where once smoke rose and thunder rolled, the air is still. Peace has returned, not the peace that man negotiates, but the peace that only God can command. He breathes deeply, and in that breath, he feels it, the sacred hush that follows divine intervention. It is not silence born of exhaustion, but of healing. The kind of quiet that restores what battle has broken. He speaks softly, almost to himself. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. Oi! The psalmist's eyes scan the far-off hills. He remembers what those valleys once looked like, armies gathered, chariots gleaming, the echo of war cries tearing through the air. And then, the stillness. No trumpet of victory, no roar of conquest, just a sudden calm that spread across the field like dawn breaking. He knows that sound well, the hush that only God can bring. He had seen men break spears, but only God could break the will to fight. He had seen kingdoms fall, but only God could cause hearts to rest. The peace of man ends with treaties and ink. The peace of God ends with transformation. He breaks the bow. He shatters the spear. He burns the chariot with fire. The psalmist closes his eyes and sees it, the remnants of war, the tools of pride, falling silent in the fire's light. The bow, once bent in fury, snaps under the weight of mercy. The spear, once thrust in anger, crumbles into dust. The chariot, symbol of might, is consumed by holy flame. But this fire does not destroy. It purifies. It burns away the illusion that violence can bring victory, that power can bring peace. He remembers the first time he felt this truth, as a young warrior standing amid the smoke of battle. His hands still trembled from the fight, his armor scorched, his heart raw. And yet, through the ringing in his ears, he had heard it, a sound softer than the clash of swords, gentler than wind, the voice of peace. It had spoken not to his enemies, but to him. "Lay it down," it said. And in that moment, he understood, the real war was never outside, it was within. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the remnants of your own battles, the weight of words left unsaid, the strain of trying to be strong too long, the walls built out of fear, the armor forged by hurt. Now, imagine his hands reaching toward you, not to scold, but to free. He breaks the bow of defensiveness. He shatters the spear of pride. He burns the chariot of control. And all that's left is peace. The kind that hums in your veins, the kind that rests in your chest like warm light, the kind that feels like surrender but tastes like freedom. He makes wars cease. Not only between nations, but between thoughts, between hearts, between what we wanted and what we are. He quiets the inner noise the same way he calmed the sea, not by negotiation, but by presence. Peace, he says, and even the storms within obey. The psalmist opens his eyes again. The city below is waking, children's laughter floating through the streets, merchants calling softly to one another, life beginning without fear. This is what peace looks like, not perfection, but rest. The kind of rest that trusts the walls will hold because God himself built them. He whispers the words again, his voice slow and sure. He makes wars cease, to the ends of the earth. He lets the phrase rest upon his tongue like a final note in a song. For this is not only history, it is prophecy. The same God who ended ancient battles is still ending them now, in homes, in hearts, in souls. He looks once more toward the far horizon, where light meets distance, where fire turns to morning. And softly, reverently, he speaks. Lord, break what must be broken, burn what must be burned, and bring peace where only you can. The wind moves through the olive trees behind him, and he feels it, that same divine stillness returning. The psalmist closes his eyes and smiles. The sound of battle is gone. Only the hum of peace remains, quiet, deep, eternal. He makes wars cease. And the world, for a moment, is still. The air has gone quiet now, not empty, but holy. Even the river seems to hush its song, as if listening for something greater than sound. The psalmist stands on the high wall, the wind lifting his cloak, the world beneath him wrapped in morning light. And then, the words come, soft but commanding, like truth spoken straight from eternity. Be still, and know that I am God. He closes his eyes, and everything inside him obeys. The heart slows, the breath deepens, the soul remembers. Be still. How many times had he fought that command? How many nights had he filled with striving, searching for answers, arguing with silence, running from what peace required, stillness. Stillness is not the absence of motion, it is the surrender of control. It is laying down the need to fix, to prove, to push. It is the quiet trust that God does not need our panic to fulfill his purpose. The psalmist whispers the words again, as if each repetition carves them deeper into his heart. Be still, and in that stillness, something begins to unfold, a knowing that does not come from thought, but from presence. A knowing that whispers, I am God, and that is enough. Oi. He opens his eyes slowly. The world before him glows with light, soft, living, warm. The city hums below, the river moves, the trees breathe, but all of it feels different now. Not busy, not loud, just alive in rhythm with the one who made it. He realizes, the earth never forgot how to listen. It was only man who forgot how to be still. He smiles faintly. Even creation obeys this truth. The sunrise does not rush, the river does not force its flow, the stars do not struggle to shine. Each waits, each moves, in quiet obedience to divine timing. Why, then, should the heart hurry? He lowers his head, whispering again, be still, and know. Not be busy. Not be perfect. Not be ready. Just be. And know. Close your eyes for a moment. Let those words reach you where even thought cannot. Be still. Not frozen, but freed. Freed from the noise of worry. Freed from the ache of control. Freed from the fear of what tomorrow may bring. Be still, because he is not still in his care for you. Be still, because the one who formed galaxies is also forming peace in your heart. Be still, because your striving adds nothing to his sovereignty. And know, not just believe, but know that he is God. Not the God of distance, but of nearness. Not a watcher, but a keeper. Not waiting for you to reach him, but already within your breath. The psalmist lifts his gaze again. The light on the horizon shimmers, not dazzling, but tender. He feels the world expanding in quiet reverence, and his smallness no longer feels like weakness, it feels like peace. He whispers softly, "You are God, and I am yours." The wind moves through the olive trees behind him. Each leaf shivers, each branch sways, as though even creation has heard the same command, "Be still." And for a moment, the entire world obeys. The noise of the nations, the memory of storms, the weight of time, all fall silent under the gravity of that truth. God is here. And that is enough. The psalmist exhales slowly, his breath mingling with the morning air. He knows the world will stir again, life will move, sound will return, but for now, this stillness is sacred. It is the quiet between heartbeats where eternity whispers into the present. He lets his final words fall like a benediction, gentle as dew. Be still, and know that you are God. And in that knowing, he finds rest. The world below begins to stir again. The hum of morning life rises softly, footsteps on stone, distant laughter, the rhythm of a city awakening. But the psalmist remains still upon the wall, eyes closed, the command still echoing within him. Be still, and know. Not understand. Not predict. Not control. Just know. He breathes deeply, slowly, deliberately. The words feel different now, deeper than thought, simpler than reason, wiser than anything the mind could ever hold. For so much of life, he had chased understanding, searching for answers in every silence, for meaning in every ache, for control in every uncertainty. But control is the language of fear. Knowing is the language of trust. He opens his eyes and looks upon the river below. It moves with perfect rhythm, never forcing its way, never fighting the stones in its path. When it meets resistance, it does not stop. It bends, it flows, it continues. The river's strength is not in its force, but in its surrender. And he realizes, so it is with faith. Faith does not demand to know every reason. It does not insist on seeing the road ahead. It rests in the quiet confidence that God knows, and that is enough. He remembers the years he spent trying to fix what only heaven could heal, the long nights of planning, the anxious waiting, the desperate prayers that sounded more like pleading than peace. He smiles faintly now, with the wisdom of hindsight. Every moment that once felt delayed had only been preparation. Every door that closed had guarded him from what would have broken him. Every unanswered prayer had been an invitation to rest, not resist. He whispers softly, "You were never late, I was simply impatient." The river glimmers beneath him, its surface catching the morning light. It seems to say what words cannot. Peace is not in control. Peace is in release. Close your eyes for a moment and breathe with that truth. Inhale and let go of the need to know. Exhale and trust that God already does. With every breath, you release a little more, the weight of worry, the grasp of fear, the illusion that everything depends on you. Be still and know. Know that there is a plan bigger than your sight, a rhythm beyond your timing, a goodness that will one day make sense of what today cannot. You are not meant to carry the map. You are meant to walk the path, step by step, moment by moment, hand in hand with the one who sees the end from the beginning. The psalmist lifts his eyes again toward the heavens. The light has grown stronger now, a warm gold spilling over rooftops and fields. He feels its touch on his face. And in that warmth, he senses the quiet presence of God surrounding him. He doesn't need proof anymore. The peace itself is the proof. He murmurs, "I do not need to understand your ways, only to know you are in them." He lets the words linger. And in that pause, Something deep within him relaxes, like a clenched hand finally opening, like a tide not loosening without effort. This is what surrender feels like, not defeat, but deliverance. He smiles faintly. All his life he had thought strength meant holding on. But now he sees, true strength is the grace to let go, and still trust the outcome to love. He watches a leaf drift down from the olive tree above, spinning gently in the wind, carried effortlessly to the river below. It lands softly on the surface and floats away, not struggling, not sinking, simply moving where the current leads. The psalmist whispers, "So be it, Lord. Let my soul move as lightly in your hands." The river continues its path, and his gaze follows until the water disappears into the distance, a reminder that the destination need not be seen to be certain. He exhales, the last trace of striving leaving with his breath. His heart is still. His spirit knows. And the knowing is enough. The psalmist stands quietly upon the wall. The city alive beneath him, the river moving like a thread of light through its heart. Birds rise and circle in the warming air, their wings catching the sun. And above it all, still, constant, eternal, the voice of God lingers from the command just spoken. Be still, and know that I am God. But now, it continues, not just as comfort, but as promise. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Oi. The words roll through the psalmist's spirit like thunder turned gentle, a sound that shakes without frightening, a declaration so certain that it calms. He looks toward the horizon, the faraway lands beyond his city, where nations rise and fall like tides, where kings rule for a moment and then return to dust. And yet, above every flag, every throne, every name, one truth stands unshaken. God will be exalted, not by human effort, not through conquest, but by his own glory, the kind that dawns quietly, the kind that no man can stop. The psalmist remembers the countless times humanity had tried to exalt itself, the towers built to reach the sky, the wars waged for pride, the monuments raised to the names of men. All of them fell. Every one. And still, the earth remains, held not by ambition, but by grace. Ruins crumble. Empires fade. But the presence endures. The dust remembers who rules over it. He whispers softly, "Your name outlasts all crowns, Lord. Your light outshines all fires." The psalmist smiles faintly, his eyes closing as wind brushes against his face. He can almost feel history itself bowing, every age bending beneath the weight of divine constancy. Even time, relentless as it is, kneels before eternity. Close your eyes for a moment, and think of the world as it is now, so vast, so loud, so restless. Every nation striving for meaning. Every heart seeking something to trust. And yet, beneath it all, the same quiet promise remains, as sure as sunrise. I will be exalted among the nations. When human noise fades, when the crowns fall, when history turns its last page, the story that remains will not be of men, but of mercy. It will be the story of a God who never ceased to love his creation, even when creation forgot to love him back. He will be exalted, not only in the heavens, but in the places where people once thought he was absent. In the ruins of pride. In the healing after pain. In the forgiveness that follows surrender. In every place where peace grows quietly after war. The psalmist opens his eyes again. He looks at his hands, scarred, aged, trembling slightly, and realizes that even he, in his smallness, is part of that exaltation. Every prayer whispered in darkness, every act of kindness unseen, every song sung through tears, they all lift his name higher. The Lord will be exalted, not by the strong, but by the surrendered. He looks toward the city once more, children laughing, merchants working, birds gliding above the rooftops, and he sees worship in all of it. Life itself praising without trying. Even the wind, as it moves through the olive branches, seems to sing the same refrain: He will be exalted. He will be exalted. He lifts his voice softly, joining creation's quiet song. Not a shout, not a plea, but a declaration made from rest. You will be exalted, Lord. Above my fears, above my failures, above my limited sight. You will be exalted when words end and silence begins. You will be exalted when the world grows still. He pauses. The wind carries his words across the river, and for a moment, the whole city feels wrapped in serenity, as though time itself has bowed to let God pass through. The psalmist closes his eyes again, his heart full of calm certainty. What has always been true will always remain. The Lord reigns. The Lord endures. The Lord is exalted. And someday, when all is quiet, the world will finally hear it too. The psalmist's gaze drifts from the horizon back to the city below. Its walls golden in the late morning light, its streets already alive with the rhythm of daily life. Merchants call softly from their stalls, children run along the cobblestones, and the sound of laughter carries like music in the wind. Peace has a sound. It's not silence, it's harmony. And as he watches his people live and breathe in safety, the psalmist feels the weight of that harmony resting upon his heart. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. He repeats it quietly, his voice barely more than breath, and the truth of it fills him again. Every wall he sees, every stone, every tower, means nothing without the presence that guards it. He knows it well. Cities rise and fall, empires build their gates and lose them again, but this refuge stands because of who dwells within. The psalmist walks slowly along the high wall, his fingers brushing the cool stone as he goes. Each mark, each groove, is a reminder that the city has survived storms before. It has trembled, but it has not fallen. And he realizes, this city is not only stone and mortar. It is a symbol. A living picture of the soul that trusts in God. When He is in the midst of you, you cannot be moved. Close your eyes for a moment, and imagine yourself as that city. Your mind the walls, your heart the gate, your spirit the square where light gathers. Now picture Him, the presence, walking through your streets, dwelling in your heart's quiet center. When He is there, fear loses its power, and chaos loses its claim. Yes, storms may still come. Winds may rattle your windows, and time may weather your walls, but the foundation remains unbroken. Because God Himself is within it. This is what the psalmist understands now. Faith is not the absence of shaking. It is the assurance that what shakes cannot touch the center. The city may tremble, but its heart stands still. He leans against the stone and looks toward the temple, where the morning smoke of offerings rises, curling skyward like prayer. He watches it drift and whispers softly, "Your presence, Lord, is the strength of our walls." He remembers the long nights when the city was under siege, how fear crept like fog through the gates, how even the strongest warriors doubted. But then, from the temple, they would hear a voice rise, a prayer, a song, a reminder that they were not alone. And in that remembering, courage would return. It was never the wall that protected them. It was the God within it. Maybe tonight, your heart has felt like that besieged city, tired of holding on, tired of pretending to be strong. The stones feel cracked, the walls uneven, the watchman weary. But listen, he has not left. He is still in your midst. And because he is there, you shall not fall. Even when you stumble, he holds you steady. Even when your light flickers, he breathes life into the flame. Even when your own strength gives way, his strength fills the hollow places. The psalmist breathes deeply, the air tasting of dust and morning. He lets his eyes close as sunlight warms his face. He feels it, the quiet pulse of peace rising again from the heart of the city. The same peace that has carried him through battles, through exile, through the endless rise and fall of time. He smiles faintly. The city endures. The soul endures. Because the Lord does not abandon what he inhabits. He whispers once more, words slow and sure, like stone meeting sunlight. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. And with that, he rests his hands upon the wall, steady, calm, unmoved, the same way his faith feels now. For though the world beyond the gates may tremble, the city within his heart remains unshaken. The psalmist descends from the wall, his sandals pressing softly into the dust of the street. The air is warm now, and the smell of bread drifts through the open market. Every sound, every movement, feels sacred, as if life itself is a prayer being whispered back to heaven. He walks slowly toward the temple, the river murmuring gently nearby. The words still move through him, steady as his heartbeat, stronger than the noise of the world. The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our refuge. He repeats them softly, as though tracing the walls of his heart with each syllable. The Lord of hosts, the psalmist lifts his eyes to the sky, a vast expanse of blue without cloud or fear. Hosts, not a small band, but an uncountable company of light, the great unseen strength that fills heaven and surrounds earth. He feels their presence now, not in form, but in stillness, like the hush that follows thunder. They are not needed to fight for God, they exist to remind the heart that it is never alone. He smiles faintly. Even silence feels defended. The Lord of hosts is with us. The words sink deep, not merely near us, not observing, but with us, woven into the very fabric of being. He thinks of all the years he spent searching for security in walls, in numbers, in plans, and how each time they failed. But this presence never did. No wall could be higher, no fortress stronger than the nearness of the Lord. He pauses near the temple steps, hand resting on the worn stone, and whispers, "The God of Jacob is our refuge." Jacob. The name pulls his thoughts backward, to the story of the restless wanderer, the deceiver turned chosen one. A man who wrestled with God and limped away blessed. A man whose failures did not cancel his calling. The psalmist smiles. It means refuge is not only for the righteous, it is for the wrestlers too. For those who struggle. For those who fall. For those who are honest enough to say, "I am weak, but I still believe." The God of Jacob, the God of second chances, the God of covenant kept through generations, the God who turned a wanderer into a nation, that God is the refuge now. He is not the God of the flawless. He is the God who stays. Close your eyes for a moment, and let that sink into the quiet places of your heart. The Lord of hosts, uncountable, unbreakable, is with you. The God of Jacob, patient, merciful, forgiving, is your refuge. Even if you limp like Jacob, even if your strength has run thin, even if you doubt in the dark, His presence wraps around you still. You are covered, not because you have done everything right, but because He has never stopped being faithful. You do not have to run to find Him. You are already inside His walls. Your sighs are known. Your silence is heard. Your heart is safe. The psalmist steps into the temple courtyard, its air thick with incense and prayer. He kneels there, hands open, and lets the stillness of the place wash over him. He doesn't ask for anything now. He simply rests in the truth that has become his home. God is here. God is enough. God is refuge. The stone beneath his knees feels solid, and he realizes it mirrors his spirit, anchored, grounded, unshaken. For the first time in years, he feels no need to flee, no urge to strive. Only peace. He looks toward the light streaming through the temple doors and whispers one final prayer of gratitude. You, Lord, are my refuge. Not because I deserve it, but because you delight to dwell where love is needed. The air grows still, the kind of stillness that feels alive, that hums softly with holiness. It is not silence. It is presence. The psalmist breathes deeply, and his heart, steady and full, echoes the truth again. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Oi! The words rise like incense into the morning sky, and in that holy quiet, everything feels safe again. The temple is quiet now. The psalmist kneels alone in the soft half-light, the scent of incense lingering in the air, the echo of prayers fading into silence. Outside, the noise of morning life continues, but within these walls, a peace has descended like mist upon the soul. He breathes slowly, deeply, letting the calm settle through every part of him. Each breath feels like a step downward, away from thought, away from effort, into something deeper than words, stillness. This is not the stillness of sleep. It is the stillness of surrender, the kind that arrives when striving finally stops, and trust takes its place. He whispers softly, "Be still, and know." And this time, the words do not rise from his lips, they rise from his spirit. They are not a command to obey, they are an invitation to rest. The psalmist's hands unclench. His shoulders ease. Even the weight of memory feels lighter. For he knows now, God does not only dwell in triumphs, he dwells in the quiet after them. In the pause between one heartbeat and the next. In the spaces we call waiting, which heaven calls worship. The presence surrounds him, soft, steady, near. It does not speak aloud. It simply is. And somehow, that is enough. Close your eyes for a moment. Let your body soften, your hands, your jaw, your shoulders. Feel gravity gently pulling you toward rest. You do not need to resist it. You do not need to hold yourself up. Let everything that is heavy begin to descend, not downward into despair, but inward into peace. You are safe here. The ground of God's presence does not give way. You can let go. The psalmist does the same. He feels his body relax, his breathing slow. The floor beneath him is cool stone, yet somehow warm, as if the earth itself holds him gently. He realizes something profound. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it is being held. Held by something greater, steadier, invisible but undeniably real. He thinks of the river that flows beyond the city walls, how it never strains to reach the sea, how it never doubts the way. It simply flows, trusting the pull of gravity, trusting the hand that carved its course. Teach me to flow like that, Lord, he whispers, his voice barely audible, without fear of where it leads. In his heart, he senses an answer, not in words, but in peace. You already are. He smiles faintly, and a quiet tear rolls down his cheek. It does not fall in sorrow, but in relief. For the first time, he feels no difference between prayer and rest. They are the same breath, the same release. The light within the temple shifts. Thin beams of gold move across the floor, touching the stones like a blessing. The psalmist watches them dance upon his hands, and he feels something unspoken. Time has slowed, but God has not. Even stillness is movement when he is in it. He closes his eyes again, and in the silence, the words of the psalm rise within him like a lullaby. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Each line folds into the next. No beginning, no end, only rhythm. The same rhythm as breath, as heartbeat, as eternity. He lets go of everything now, his name, his fears, his history. There is only presence. Only peace. Only the soft hum of life wrapped in divine love. And in that descent, that holy stillness, he understands. To know God is not to climb toward him, but to rest where he already is. The psalmist remains upon the temple floor. Hands open, eyes closed, breath steady. He feels the world continuing beyond these walls, the river flowing, the markets opening, the sound of sandals on stone, and yet, none of it disturbs the peace that now fills him. It's as though he has found the heart of stillness itself, a quiet pulse beneath all things, steady, patient, eternal. He realizes. This is what the psalm was always leading toward. Not escape from the world, but peace within it. Not absence of movement, but presence within motion. The still heart at the center of a turning world. He breathes deeply. The air feels thick with holiness, not a presence descending from above, but one rising from within. He whispers softly. Even now, the nations still rage. The earth still trembles. But within you, Lord, there is no fear. He opens his eyes. Sunlight spills across the temple floor, golden dust floating in the beams like tiny stars. He watches them drift, weightless, effortless, peaceful. They move wherever the light takes them, and he smiles. Perhaps that is what faith is, to move where the light leads, without striving to steer it. He remembers the roaring storms, the trembling mountains, the crashing seas, and how the psalm began. God is our refuge and strength. And now, at the quiet end of it, he sees the full circle. The trembling has become stillness, the chaos has become calm. Not because the world changed, but because he did. Inside, the refuge stands firm. The presence has become unshakable. And that presence is not a place anymore. It is his heart. He smiles softly. The city of God, the one that cannot be moved, was never only a place of stone and gates. It was the soul that remembers who holds it. Close your eyes with him for a moment. Feel the rhythm of your own breath. The rise, the fall, the pause between. That pause, that space of quiet between inhale and exhale, that is where God speaks. Not in the noise, but in the stillness. When the world presses, when thoughts clamor for attention, when uncertainty clouds your peace, return there. To that small, still space within. It is not empty. It is filled with him. That is the heart of the world, the divine stillness beneath every storm. The psalmist rests his hand upon his chest, feeling his heartbeat, slow, steady, alive. He realizes it's not just his own. Every pulse is a reminder of the Creator's rhythm, each beat a whisper, I am here. I am with you. I am God. He bows his head, not out of fear, but reverence. There is no longer distance between heaven and earth, no divide between prayer and breath. All is one, and all is peace. He whispers into the quiet, barely moving his lips. In you, Lord, the world finds its center. The words fall into the silence like stones sinking into calm water, ripples expanding outward, touching everything they meet. He looks toward the temple door. Beyond it, the world waits, bright, loud, alive. But he feels no rush to leave. Stillness is not something to escape from or return to. It is something to carry. He rises slowly, his body light, his heart steady. Every sound, every scent, every flicker of sunlight feels sacred now. Nothing has changed, and yet, everything has. For the God he sought in the heavens has revealed himself in the quiet heart within. He whispers once more, as though sealing the revelation into his soul. Be still, and know. Then he stops. There is no need to finish the sentence. He already knows. The psalmist steps out from the temple. The sun has risen fully now, its light stretching long shadows across the streets, its warmth pressing gently against his skin. The city hums with life, but beneath the movement, he feels it, the quiet that lingers after glory. It is not silence, but peace wearing the sound of life. The voices of children echo through the narrow lanes. Vendors speak softly to early buyers. The scent of bread fills the air, mingling with the faint sweetness of olive trees. And everywhere, beneath the human noise, he hears a rhythm, steady, unhurried, eternal. It is the sound of the refuge itself. He walks slowly, hands clasped loosely behind his back, every step feeling sacred. He is no longer searching for God, he is walking with him. Not in temple light, not in the songs of priests, but in the ordinary, in the dust and laughter, in the breath of morning. The psalm still hums inside him like a heartbeat. The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our refuge. He repeats it quietly, not as a chant, but as a truth that now breathes through him. With us. Not above us. Not far away. With us. He glances around, the baker, the shepherd, the mother carrying her child, and realizes each of them is walking beneath the same covering. Each of them is guarded by the same invisible strength. Each of them is home, even when they don't yet know it. The God of Jacob, the God who walked with wanderers, who spoke to dreamers, who wrestled with the fearful and renamed them blessed, that God walks these same streets. He is not only the God of ancient altars. He is the God of footprints in dust. The psalmist stops by the river once more. The same water that shimmered in the morning still flows, soft and bright, a living mirror of heaven. He kneels beside it, cupping his hands to drink. The coolness touches his lips. And he feels it, the same stillness, the same presence that filled the temple, now filling the flow of this moment. The water slips through his fingers, but he does not mourn its passing. He knows now, the presence is not in the keeping, but in the knowing. Not in what he can hold, but in what holds him. He gazes at the ripples spreading across the surface, each ring widening, each fading gently into the next. And he understands, peace works the same way. It begins within and moves outward, from the still heart to the trembling world. Close your eyes for a moment and listen to the quiet beneath your own thoughts. That is where the refuge lives. Not in a place, but in presence. Not somewhere far beyond, but within the stillness between one heartbeat and the next. The world around you may roar. Nations may rage. Fears may press against your mind like wind against a door. But beneath it all, there is a current that does not change. It moves with mercy. It holds with love. It whispers with peace. That is God's rhythm. And when you slow enough to listen, you can hear it again. The psalmist lifts his eyes to the sky, a faint smile tracing his lips. He whispers, "You are still here, and I am still held." The breeze rises, carrying his words down the river, past the city walls, out toward the world that still needs reminding. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. He sits there for a while longer, watching the water, breathing the quiet, letting peace linger like light on his skin. He knows he must return to life's motion soon, to duty, to people, to sound. But now he understands, stillness was never meant to be a pause. It was meant to be a way of being. And so he rises, not leaving peace behind, but carrying it with him, a temple built within, a river that never runs dry. He looks once more toward heaven, and whispers with soft certainty, "The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our refuge." And the world, in all its motion, feels perfectly still. The day has grown quiet again, not in stillness, but in a soft rhythm that hums like peace fulfilled. The psalmist walks through the city's gates, feeling the warmth of the sun upon his shoulders, hearing the gentle laughter of life unfolding around him. Each sound, each face, each moment seems to breathe the same truth he has carried since dawn. God is our refuge and strength. The words no longer belong only to the psalm. They belong to him now, to his heartbeat, to his breath, to the way his soul moves through the world. He pauses at the edge of the fields outside the walls. The air is clear, the horizon wide. He looks at the earth, solid, ancient, alive, and smiles, remembering how frightened he once was of its shaking. He remembers nights when the storm's roar drowned every prayer, when his faith felt like a fragile flame in the wind. But now he understands. The shaking was never meant to destroy him. It was meant to reveal the foundation that could not be moved. And that foundation was never his courage, it was always God. He whispers into the breeze, words soft, almost like breathing, "You were my refuge when I ran, my strength when I had none, my help before I even asked." The words linger in the air, and it feels as though the earth itself answers, in the hum of insects, in the rustle of olive leaves, in the deep, patient silence that holds everything together. This quiet, this steadiness, is the voice of refuge. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine that same voice moving through your own story. Through the fears you've carried, through the storms you've stood within, through the nights that felt longer than faith could stretch. Listen, and you will hear it, the same presence that carried David, the same mercy that walked beside Jacob, the same love that held Israel through exile and return. It is still here, still near, still strong. God is our refuge and strength. Not in theory, but in reality, a help that breathes beside you, a calm that stands taller than fear. You have not imagined his nearness. You have only forgotten how constant it is. The psalmist kneels, pressing his hand to the earth. The ground feels cool, steady, alive. He can feel the pulse of the world, slow, patient, eternal. He whispers, "You have been refuge since the beginning of time. Before I was born, you were already keeping me safe." He looks to the horizon again, fields stretching outward into gold, mountains rising like silent praise against the sky. Everything in creation speaks the same truth. He reigns. He holds. He sustains. The psalmist closes his eyes and feels the peace of that knowledge move through him like sunlight through water. It warms every place that once felt cold, and softens every shadow within. He realizes, the refuge of God is not a place to hide. It is a presence to live within. a peace that walks beside him through the valley and the victory, a shelter that moves when he moves, that rests where he rests. It is not something he must find again. It has found him. He stands once more, the wind moving gently through his hair, and smiles toward heaven. His prayer now is not one of asking, but of gratitude. You have been my refuge through storms and stillness alike. When I feared the world's noise, you gave me silence. When I lost my way, you were already waiting on the path. And now, in your peace, I have come home. The words fall softly into the air, carried like small offerings to the open sky. He knows the psalm has ended, but the truth of it never will. God's presence does not fade when the prayer grows quiet. It lives on, in every breath, in every heartbeat, in every moment that chooses trust over fear. And as the psalmist turns back toward the city, his steps light, his spirit steady, he whispers one last time, not as a plea, but as a proclamation. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And with that, the wind stills, the light deepens, and all creation seems to sigh in agreement. Evening has returned. The city rests beneath a sky of fading gold and violet. The psalmist walks once more along the quiet riverbank, the same river that shimmered at dawn, the same water that mirrored heaven's calm after the storm. Its surface glows softly in the twilight, and the air carries that gentle hush that comes only when the day has fulfilled its purpose. He breathes deeply, the scent of earth, the coolness of the evening wind, the sound of the water's slow murmur. Each sense reminds him, peace was never found after the storm. It was always within it. And now, as night begins to rise again, that peace does not leave him. It stays, a living presence, a quiet companion. He looks toward the city gates. The torches are being lit. Children's laughter echoes faintly, then fades into the hum of night. The walls, the streets, the people, all of it rests beneath an invisible covering. The Lord of hosts is with us, he whispers again. It is no longer a promise he's trying to believe. It is the air he breathes. He sits by the river's edge, watching the reflections of the lamps flicker upon the water, tiny stars dancing where heaven meets earth. And in that reflection, he sees the psalm made flesh, the storm silenced, the city unshaken, the stillness alive with God. He smiles, and a quiet thought moves through him like prayer. If this peace can fill a city, it can fill the world. If it can steady one heart, it can steady all who seek it. The Lord's presence is not confined to walls or nations. It flows like the river, everywhere, always, forever. Close your eyes for a moment, and let that truth rest over you. The day behind you, the world still spinning, and yet, there is no rush. No fear. No noise that can reach the place where you sit now. The Lord of hosts is with you. The God of Jacob, patient, faithful, near, is your refuge. You are held tonight, just as you were this morning, and just as you will be in every tomorrow that follows. Even when mountains crumble, even when the seas rise, even when the future is veiled in shadow, he remains unmoved, unchanging, unfailing. You are safe within his keeping. The psalmist lifts his gaze one last time to the heavens. The stars have begun their watch, silent, ancient witnesses of God's constancy. He feels the quiet pulse of life beneath him, the same rhythm that began before time, still steady, still singing. He whispers softly, not to the night, but to the presence that fills it. You have been my refuge through every season. When the world trembled, you stood. When my strength failed, yours did not. And when all fell silent, you spoke peace. He exhales slowly, and the wind moves gently across the water, as though the world itself is answering his prayer. The city sleeps. The river flows. The earth, for now, is still. And above it all, and within it all, the whisper of eternal truth remains. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. As the psalmist closes his eyes, the night folds around him like a prayer answered. Peace does not fade, it deepens. It settles into every breath, every corner of creation, every heart that dares to rest. And the psalm, ancient, enduring, alive, continues to sing within the silence. Be still and know.